Now, what I've already done is I have a machine created. Okay, so it's a simple Ubuntu-based machine. Okay, now all I have done in this is I've installed Terraform already, but if not, you can take any EC2 machine. Okay, so here, now let me go to examples folder. Okay, now I have my code here. Okay, now let me just explain you what I'm going to do here. So basically, the first thing is there is a file called AWS JSON. Okay, now where did I get this file? And typically, as I said, any kind of files you're going to do a versioning. So I've already stored it into my GitLab account. And this is where I have this file. Okay, so this is the JSON file. Now let's look into the content of this JSON file. Okay, I'll just make it a little more bigger so that it's visible. Now, as I was saying, you're going to write everything in a JSON content. Now, in that, you're going to have a variable section. Now, what are the values that I'm giving in this variable section? Now, eventually, I'm going to use Packer to connect to AWS and create a image. Now, for that, the credentials for AWS has to be given. So this is where what I have already done in this machine is I have set up environment variable, which will have my access key and secret key. Okay. So here, if you just go to this machine, now you can see I have set up my access key already. And in the same way, I've already set up the secret key. So when I run Packer, Packer will be reading the environment variable and it will be substituting that value to this so that when Packer runs, it knows how to connect to AWS. Okay. And then here I'm telling I want to connect to AWS using the Mumbai region. Okay. And now practically, how does it know whether to connect to AWS or not? Now that's because of the builder section. Okay. So as I said, for every type of image that you're creating, the builder section will be varying. So now, since I'm going to connect to AWS, so the section will be specific, wherein the type is what you're going to tell. Okay. So if you're going to connect to AWS and create an image, then in Packer, the type will always be Amazon EBS. Okay. Now we will look into this part on why it's called as EBS. But remember, since the type is Amazon EBS, so the Packer knows that it has to connect to AWS, and for that, these are the variables that I'm trying to specify. Okay. Now, to create an image, like I said, we need to first create a machine and do the configuration inside the machine. And the last step is to convert it into an image. And that is where the builder section will require what are those information needed to create that EC2 machine. Okay. So in that way, if you see, now I'm going to tell what is the source base image, just like how I was defining in the diagram. So I'm trying to take a Ubuntu based image. So this is my base image. Okay. Now from this, it is going to create a EC2 machine and then configure all the steps further that I'm going to give. Now, in this, to create a machine first, we are telling what is the AMI. But however, here, once the machine is created, how it should be logging into this machine, because now We are not going inside the machine. The packer itself will go inside the EC2 machine, which is temporarily created. Okay. So for that, we are going to give the details on connecting to this. Okay. And then we are also going to tell on what will be the region in which the machine is created, and to connect to the machine, now what are the credentials that we have to give. Okay. And what is the type of the machine that we have to give. So this way, we are giving all the credentials to the packer to tell that go to AWS in Mumbai region, create a machine based on T2 micro, and the source base image is this. And once it is created, connect using a user called Ubuntu. Okay. And then finally, once it is created the machine, what are the steps that you're going to run inside? And that is where the provisioner section will be coming. Okay. So now what will Packer do? Once the machine is created using this source image, it will connect inside using the user that you have specified, and it will start executing the provisioner section. Now this is where in Packer there are different types of provisioners. Okay, I'm just giving you example here of all the possible provisioners. So the first type of provisioner that I'm giving here is a file provisioner. Okay, wherein now if you want to copy a file from your current host machine where you are going to run Packer to the newly created EC2 machine from which we are going to convert it into an image. Okay, so that way the block here, if you see, I'm saying the type as file. So for this, you're going to give the source and destination. Now this is where I'm saying from the folder where you are going to run this JSON file, the same folder, I just have a file called as welcome file. Now you can change this to whatever the configuration file that you want. So I'm just trying to give you a demo where if there is some configuration file that you want to be copied inside the machine and convert into an image, so you can use this file provisioner. So if you go here in the same folder where I'm trying to run this JSON, I also have this file. Okay. So always you have to give the file reference into the relative path. So this is just a dummy file where I have just put my name. Now, what will happen? Once the machine is created, it will copy this file from your current machine to the newly created EC2 machine, and in that where it will copy. It will copy to the home directory of the user. So this is again up to us to choose what file and where to copy. But this example will just copy this file. Now after copying, I want another type of provisioner where I want to run some command. Okay. Now this is where if you want to run some command inside the newly created machine using Packer, then you're going to use the next provisioner type as shell. Now here I'm going to run two Linux commands. So that is where I'm putting it as inline. So what it is going to do, it is just going to show you that whether the file has been copied or not. Okay, so for that reason, I'm just doing a ls of home directory, and then I'm just going to show you the content of it so that we can cross check that it is exactly copied. Now you can replace this with whatever the command that you want to actually configure inside the machine, like you want to install a package or basically create some users or change some permissions on file or folder, you can do. But now instead of running all these commands manually, if you want to run a script and do some configuration, or if you want to call like a configuration management tool like Ansible or Chef, then replace this command with a Chef command or an Ansible playbook command. But for that, you need to copy your playbook first inside that machine and then run. Or you can call Ansible on the host machine and configure. So it's completely depending on the need. Now, however, here I'm just showing you a sample where I'm going to run a shell script. Okay. Now, this is where if you see on the same folder, I also have a shell script written. So instead of calling a Ansible or Chef, I've just written a shell script. So if you look into this, So basically what it will do, it will be trying to install Apache on that machine, so that once the machine is created, or from that machine, if you create an image, and any user who uses that image and creates his own EC2 machine, he will be having Apache already installed in it. Okay, so this is just an example where I'm trying to first run a sleep command for 30 seconds. Then inside that newly created EC2, we will run the apt update, and then I will also do an upgrade of the machine, and then I will install Apache 2. So again, it's just an example. So now you can replace this with whatever the configurations that you want to do. And now, finally, once all the provisioners are completed, then what will this packer do is, inside this builder block, I have given the name of the golden image or the final image name. Okay, and this is where you can see what I have given is, I just want to differentiate with various images I have created. So I'm going to name it as Packer Linux AWS demo, and it will replace this with the timestamp. Okay, so now if I run Packer against this JSON file, it will connect to my AWS account in the Mumbai region using this Ubuntu base image. It will try to create a machine, go inside that machine and copy this file, run this command and run the script and install Apache. And once all this provisioning is done, then it is going to convert that machine into a final image, which is called as golden image. Okay, so now for this, as I said, you need to make sure that you have all your configuration files, as well as you need to make sure that you have your scripts, whatever that you need to call through provisioners or the file. Okay, now what I've already done, I have already cloned this workspace into this machine, and I have this file here. Okay, and how do you install Packer? As I said, all you have to do is do a wget, download the zip and unzip it to a particular folder. Okay, and I've already done it to just save time. So to cross check whether Packer is installed, you can see Packer is installed on user local bin. And just to check what version of Packer you're using, I'm using Packer 170. Okay, this is what I have just done. Okay, now once it is installed and now I have my JSON file, all I have to do is Packer validate your JSON file. Okay, now you can have multiple JSON files, so you tell what is the JSON file that you want to call. So from that way, I'll just say Packer and validate, and this is my JSON file, which is what I was just showing you, where I have the variable section and I have my builder section and my provisioner section. Okay, so go ahead and do a validate. Okay, so if you don't get a message, then it means everything is good. In case if it is not valid, it will give you a message here. Now what is that we have to do? Now to run it, you just go ahead and say Packer build and the JSON file name. Okay, so Packer build and the file. Okay, so now if you watch carefully, it is going to basically take the base EMI that the builder section had. So using that AMI, it is going to create a temporary EC2 machine. Okay, you can see this, and inside that machine, what it is going to do is, once the machine is successfully created, it will go inside and execute our provisioner blocks. So we had given 3 provisioner blocks, right? So it will try to copy the file, run those commands and the script. So you can see now the machine has been created. Inside that, it is trying to execute the first provisioner, which is copying the file provisioner. And once it is copied, the second is to display the ls command and cat the file, right? So you can see this is the output of ls command, and this is just the cat. Now this means it is now executed these commands inside the machine after it has copied the file or after the file provisioner has been executed. So this one here, after copying, it ran these two commands. Now it is executing this shell script inside that machine. And that is where you can see it's kind of doing a apt update and apt upgrade. And after that, it will install the Apache. Okay. And once it has done all the provisioners, then it will go ahead and convert that EC2 machine into an image. Okay. Now, when you say there is a EC2 machine, you cannot just directly convert it into an image. Okay. So in AWS, what you have to do, you need to first take a snapshot of that machine. Okay. So you need to make sure that there is a snapshot created, and from that snapshot, you are going to create a AMI. Now, all those things will be done by the builder section of the Packer. Okay. So that's what we will now see. I can ignore these errors.
Can you please show the script file? Happening that it is happening here. Which script is doing this installation?
Please hold on. Once the session is finished, I'll share everything. Okay, so basically it's going ahead with the upgrade. So remember, this point again, it's very important to understand. So your EC2 machine is not directly converted into image. So you need to take a snapshot, and that snapshot is what is going to be converted into a AMI. Okay. Now, practically, when we say that you are going to create a snapshot, where is it stored? Now that is where it is the snapshot what we are going to store it in EBS. Okay, because it is not the entire machine snapshot that we are taking. So going back to the basics of AWS, when you create a machine that is a EC2 machine, where is the exact hard disk? So there is a default root volume that we create. If you have not noted, go back and try to create a machine. When you're creating a machine, you will say what is the AMI and then the type of machine like T2 micro, T2 large, and then there will be a step where you will say what is the hard disk. So by default, it will be 8 GB, right? So in that, have you noted? So that volume or that is what we call it as the root volume, which is where you are actually storing everything inside the machine. So now, in fact, whatever the configurations that we are going to do, like copy the file, run the shell script, all those things are being done inside that volume or root volume. And that root volume is what we are going to create as a snapshot. And that snapshot is what we are going to convert into an image. So eventually that root volume is nothing but a EBS volume. So that is where once we go back after this is generated the image, you should see that there is a snapshot created in the EBS volume, and corresponding to that there would have been a golden image generated, and that is where we call this type in builder as Amazon EBS. Okay, so it all goes back to your basics of AWS. So remember, you are not just converting the machine, so you're taking the root volume and then you are trying to create a snapshot of it, and from that snapshot you're going to create a image. Okay, yeah. So now it has completed all the steps in that machine that is executing the script. And once it is done, you can see that EC2 machine, whatever we created using Packer on the background, it will stop it. And from that, it will create a snapshot, and that snapshot, it will convert it into a golden image. And this is where the name of the image is coming up. Okay. So if you just wait for a couple of more seconds, we should see that the image is generated. Now, once the image is generated, finally, it will go ahead and delete the EC2 machine because we don't need, we really don't need that machine anymore, right? So that's where. So it has completed, and you can see we have this particular image being generated. Okay. Now, to cross check, what we can do, we can go back to our AWS services in EC2.
Adam, I think your screen is freezed.
Okay, let me share it again. Now,
Yeah, it is visible.
okay. Okay, just to show you. So what it has done, it has created the image, deleted that machine. So now if I go back to my EC2 dashboard, now here you see that on the left side, you would see a image, which is AMI. So if you click on this, you should be seeing your golden image or the image that you just now created. And this is the name of it. So going forward, if anyone within the organization, if you want to use this, then refer this as your image name. Now this will be coming up in your launch instance page. Okay. So this is how you're going to create multiple images. All right. Now, like I was saying, the image that you created is not directly because it has created a snapshot and then converted. Okay. So that's where if you just scroll down, you should see the EBS and volume. And in this, if you click, corresponding to that particular image, you should also see an additional snapshot which is created. Okay. So that is how it's always that it creates a particular snapshot, and from that snapshot, it will be creating the volumes. Okay. So you can go to the snapshot, and now here you can see there is a snapshot created, and this is the snapshot from which we converted it into a golden image. Okay. Now why I'm saying this, because end of the day you should also know where is that stored, right? Because you have to convert it as a snapshot and then create it. Now anytime if you want to delete it, then what you have to do first is you have to choose the image and you need to deregister. Okay. So once you deregister, then go back to the snapshot and then delete the snapshot. So you cannot just directly delete a image. Okay. So this again may be an interview question. So first deregister and then delete the snapshot. And this is why the type is called as Amazon or AWS EBS. Okay. So what we saw here, I have a configuration, and whenever I want, I can simply go ahead and just execute a Packer build, and that will help me to generate an image in which whatever the configuration I want, I can do. Okay. Now, pretty much, what is the difference between doing this and your traditional method in AWS? The difference is that will work in only for AWS, right? But if you are using Packer, I can use the same configuration and I can run it for my AWS or Azure, because now organizations are using multiple, infrastructures across multiple providers. Then just like how you are going to use Terraform. Why is Terraform getting popular? Because Terraform is anyone? It is cloud agnostic, because using Terraform, you can manage your infrastructure in AWS or Azure. The same way, if you use Packer, you can manage the image generation, whether it is a VMware or AWS or Azure. Now that will not work if you are using some built-in options or features of AWS. Okay, so that's the drawback you need to know. So now as you start moving out in a DevOps culture, you need to be knowing cloud agnostic way so that one tool can be used for different service providers. Okay, so this is how whenever you need, all you have to do is change the configuration files, whatever that you have, or the JSON file, and based on the parameters that you want, you can just change it, and you would be able to create the image using Packer. Okay, so this is how you're going to create a golden image using Packer. Now, the next point in our agenda that I was trying to tell you is, I don't want to run Packer like this, because now if I have a requirement like when I'm doing a CI/CD, I need to create an image, and from that image, I'm going to create a new machine, and inside that machine, I might be doing some activity or I might be doing a deployment. Now, this is when, how are you going to combine these two steps where the image is generated, but from this image, I want to create a machine and then further do whatever the activity I want. Now, that is when you would be using Terraform. Okay, so going back to Terraform. Now, what does Terraform do? So Terraform will help us to create an infra, or what we call it as a machine. Okay, but now what we want is, we want first the image to be generated, and then we have to create the machine. So that is the final machine in which assume we are going to do the deployment. And all of this we can handle using Terraform. Okay, and this is where, let's go back to our code. Okay, now I'll show you another example where how can we use Terraform to build an image, for which Terraform will call Packer. Okay, and Packer will generate the image, and then the same image is what we are going to use for creating a machine. So the logic is like this: Terraform will call Packer, Packer will generate the image, and it will return the name or the value of that back to Terraform. And then Terraform is going to use that golden image and create a final deployment environment or a machine in which you are going to start working.